I cannot wait for this one. Today's guest is a man whose work you've almost certainly seen, even if you don't realise it.
I was allowed to be creative. So somebody would come with an idea and then you'd turn it into something, and they were prepared to sit there and suffer and pay you for it.
Lou Molloy is one of the UK's most recognisable tattoo artists, with a client base that includes famous athletes, musicians and celebrities.
A book that's a throwaway item, but if a kid can pick that book up and learn something from it, it's a win.
Yeah. He won't like me saying this, but years ago he became a celebrity himself after appearing on the UK's Answer to Miami Inc.
The misconception was that I got paid shitloads of money for it. I didn't.
I've spent hours in Lou's company, and he's way more than the guy who applies the ink. Lou is a designer, an entrepreneur, an intellect, a creative force. He's also someone who divides opinion, and that's exactly why I wanted him on.
If someone was to strip everything back now from you, what would be left that makes Lou as a character?
That's not easy to answer that.
In this episode, we'll dig into the man behind the tattoo gun, the artistry, the hustle, the lessons that Lou has picked up after years at the very top of his game. So let's get into it.
Lou,
Yes,
how
Dave.
are you, my man?
I'm very well, thank you.
Listen, hopefully this hour is going to be less painful than most of the sessions that we have together, at least from my end anyway.
Yeah, I'm always on the right end of the pain.
You are. But I'm looking forward to this for many reasons, man. I think mainly because I think I know you at a surface level, having spent some time in your company. And I would imagine that other people who know you might feel the same. I have no idea really what drives Lou Molloy,
Right.
or the background to you, but what fascinates me about you is your character, mate. So before we dive into anything, can you just paint me a picture of the Lou Molloy kind of growing up, the early days before anyone knew of the name Lou Molloy?
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one because it all come from a very, very weird background. So my mum, her parents, very hard workers. My grandfather was black. So there's the first weird one that you throw in. And I never saw my granddad as black. He was just my granddad, if you know what I mean. But there'd be these odd occasions we'd go out and someone would go, oi, N-word. And I remember this as clear as bell. I was probably about 4 years old. And I said, "What, sir?" And he goes, "It doesn't matter." Okay, never questioned it. And my endearing memory of my grandfather was he was a really smart dresser, really dapper looking bloke. And he was very creative. He was a mechanic, that was his trade. But he could sort of turn his hand to anything.
Yeah.
But then again, a lot of people of that era could do, because it was make, do and mend, all that kind of thing. And then on my dad's side, there was my grandparents there, and it was very much a matriarchal family. So my grandmother was like top of the pile kind of thing, but it was a really dysfunctional family. So on the one side, I had on my mum's side, it was all the creatives, and on my dad's side, it was chaos.
Yeah.
But I was somewhere in between, the middle of it. Now, the weird one was I was a product of I was an unplanned pregnancy.
Right.
So mum and dad had to get married, and I've got nothing but happy memories as a kid until I was 11. And that's when my sister came along, and that was when it became apparent that there was something not right. But up until that point, my mum absolutely immersed me in culture. So it was every museum, every gallery, every stately home. We went to it. I think I was probably about 6 or 7, and my mum took me to the British Museum to see the Tutankhamun exhibition, and it was a big deal at the time. But when you're a kid, and you're like, And then same sort of time frame, took me to Venice, Italy, Germany, Austria, France, and it was just unheard of a kid in the 60s. So all of these experiences, they all sort of came in, and we'd go in these places, and my mum would be like waxing lyrical about this and that and things. So I'm the great person to have on a Trivial Pursuit team, because I know all kinds of useless shit that's neither use nor ornament to anybody. But it was I wanted to be artistic in a career, but in that era of the 70s, if you sort of said, I'm going to go to art school, it was a surefire way to get a fat lip and a black eye and be called a puff for the rest of your life. But then I found tattooing, and it wasn't, there was no element of design in this. It was just one of those things. My dad had a couple of tattoos. One of my uncle had a couple of tattoos. And then I started noticing them on other people. And it was sort of one day, I said to my dad, what is that? And he's like, oh, it's a tattoo. You don't want to know. But that was the worst thing he could have said, because I did want to know.
Yeah.
So then I went on this journey to try and find out what they were. And by the time, I think I was either 9 or 10, I did a little dot on the back of my hand that I've still got. I got clattered for that.
At 9?
At 9 years old. And then I've got this naked woman here on the inside of my arm. I had that done when I was 14. This lad called Gary Nicholson, he was one of the biggest rogues going, and we had such good laughs together, me and him, got into all kinds of trouble. Bunked off school, went to Cockney Paul's, which was a tattoo studio in the underground market, as it was on Market Street. And I had a bit of a fluff moustache at the time, so I'd nicked some of my mum's mascara. You know, goes down in your best threads and everything. And I get this thing and I'm like, so when it was finished, he just went, handed me this piece of kitchen. Oh, I went, what's that for? And he just held up this mirror. He didn't say anything. He just held up this mirror, and all this mascara had run. so I had this Mexican moustache, and I just went, okay, see ya, on my way. So that was like the first time where I'd been in a tattoo studio. But
and we're in Manchester at this point, yeah?
Yeah. This on Market Street. I mean, there's a lot of people of an older generation will remember the underground market, because it was a bit of a edgy place. You know, it was record shops, but they were all selling bootleg records, and clothes shops. There was a clothes shop in there called Clogs, and it was all the kind of, you know, the high platforms that the glam rockers were wearing. It was all stuff like that. And at the same time, it was all like the Northern Soul scene. So it was, you know, catering to all these kind of people, and everything was very tribal then. But what I realised in Cockney Paul's studio was there was all these guys in there who were all the bad boys. And by getting tattooed, you were instantly in that club. Yeah. So then all of a sudden, you're going down more often, because he didn't give a shit. Yeah. You know, he was paying the money, he'd do it, and that was it. But then all of a sudden, you were letting on to these people who you'd later find out, as like, you don't want to mess with him, he'll eat you alive and all of this. But, you know, you're on first name terms with them, and it sort of gave me a sense of belonging, which was great, because I didn't feel that at home. Yeah. So I gravitated more and more towards this thing. So fast forward to me leaving school, Dad was hell-bent on me becoming an engineer, and I'm just like, because I wanted to be a tattooer. Yeah. Anyway, at 18 years old, circumstance came about where it was my parents, parents of a girl who was seen at the time was called Jane Prince, her mum and dad, and my grandparents. They all clubbed together and gave me the equivalent of 5,000 quid, which in today's money was probably about 30 grand. Yeah. It's a lot of money. And they backed me up 100%. Wow. Now, at the time, I was absolutely as green as the grass. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear in this, but I didn't have a fucking clue, Dave. Yeah. But all I knew was I wanted to be a tattooer. And I'm not joking, probably for the first 10 years, I literally lived hand to mouth. But nothing would stop me, because it's all I wanted to do. So it was like, you'd go 2-3 weeks, not a single person through the door. Then somebody would come in and they might spend 100 quid. And I'd like, oh God, I can pay the rent this month. Yeah. And then it'd be a week later and somebody else come in, oh, I can buy some cheap food this month. And it was like that for years. Yeah. But eventually it got to a point where more and more people were coming in. So by the time we reached the early 90s, I was actually in a position where I was like, oh, I can go around the supermarket now without jotting up the prices of everything. And then it was probably the mid-90s. That's when I said the golden age of tattooing started, because all of a sudden it was the media were interested. The HIV thing was put to one side because there was a lot of scaremongering about that at the time. It was like, oh, you get a tattoo, you're going to die because you'll get AIDS and all this. And it's just absolute horseshit.
Yeah.
But it was the tabloid press.
Yeah.
They're really good at, getting the truth and then bending it into a story that suits their narrative. But at the same time, and I think it would have been about 1997, I think it was. Phone rings one day. Picks the phone up. Is that Louis? He's like, yeah. Who's this? And he goes, it's Paul Ince. And I just went, fuck off. Just put the phone down. So this is a wind up. Phone rings again and picks it up. Cheeky bastard, who are you telling him to fuck off? And I went, stop winding me up, mate. He said, no, it's not a wind up. He said, I want to get a tattoo. So anyway, he came in. So he was the first celebrity that I tattooed. And then a few months later, gets another phone call, Ian Wright.
Yeah.
He comes up, gets someone.
And are you still in Middleton? Are you in Middleton?
I'm still in the same studio on Oldham Road that I opened in 1981. I'm still there to this day. Never moved away. I started off renting the upstairs, and I think mid-90s I bought the building.
Yeah.
But it just went on, and it snowballed and snowballed. And then...
And were you going back to the 80s then? Were you... Obviously, tattooing before the 90s was probably, I would imagine, more underground, more rebellious, right?
Yeah, so...
And it perhaps had a certain reputation to it as well.
Oh, God, absolutely.
So were you an outlier then? Were you a complete outlier?
Absolutely, yeah. You were like an outlaw. To sort of put into perspective how bad it was, if anybody asked me what I did for a living, the last thing you said was you was a tattoo, because you'd get that look. When I bought my first house, bank manager said, you can't put on the application form that you're a tattoo. We'll put that you're a painter and decorator. And I was like, why? And he said, they'll think you're money laundering or drug dealing.
Right.
I was like, oh, come on. And I put it on this kind of parallel, saying if you went into any kind of social event and said, hey, I'm a tattoo, you might as well go in and say, hey, I'm a kiddie fiddler. Because that honestly, Dave, that was the kind of look that you got. People would literally go and they'd recoil and pull away from you, like as if you was carrying some deadly virus or something. Whereas now, you see things where you'll be filling in something online. What do you do for a living? Drop down menu, tattoo artist. It'll be there. So
what made you keep going then, Lou? If people had such an allergic reaction to it?
Because I think the main thing was it allowed me to be creative in a one-on-one situation. And there was something totally unique about that.
Yeah.
So it allowed me to be creative. It allowed me to generate artwork. It was a one-on-one thing. I got paid for it. And I massively enjoyed doing it. Now, in any scenario where you're working with the public or with people, you're going to get dickheads. You're going to get the bellends. You'll get them all.
Yeah.
But maybe 1 in 10, you'll really connect with them.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it worth it.
Yeah.
That's what keeps you going. Also, during that same period in the 80s, you got a lot of weirdos coming in because they were like you. They were on the edge. They were on the fringes of society. So some of these people would come in and you'd be going, but you go, hello and welcome and all this kind of thing. But then sometimes you'd find that underneath all that weirdness, they were actually really nice people. It's just by whatever quirk of fate, they turn that way. So, and I'll give you an example. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day. So probably late 80s. And I realized one day there was a lot of like gay people coming in the studio and they were coming from really long distance, which I was like, that's weird. So anyway, there's this guy one day come up from London and I just said to him, so I'm not being funny, but I said, why have you come all this way? And he goes, well, your studio's listed as a gay friendly studio. So I said, what do you mean? Explain. And he said, well, gay people can come in your studio. They can say as such, and you won't dare get the fuck out or whatever. He said, you're still accepting. And he said, there's a few publications out there that have written about this because he said, there's been people who've come in who've not said, oh, I am gay, by the way.
Yeah.
But they'll get onto the subject and your reaction has been the right reaction.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, oh, right. So I think, oh, well, that's actually all right. And the thing is, and this is a strange one, the tattoo, you know, they all use this word about inclusive. It's like, oh, fuck off. We were doing that shit like back in the 70s, because the very first tattoo convention that ever happened was in, I think it was in America. It might have been Houston. I stand to be corrected on that. But it was the first time where there was a meeting of people. There was white people, there was black people, there was gays, there was trannies, you name it. They were all in there, and they all had one thing in common. They were all tattooed.
Yeah.
So everybody got on. And it was like, it's always been like that. So there's no sort of like, because, oh, that's a cool tattoo.
Yeah.
And you might be talking to some guy or some girl, or you can't quite tell, is it a guy, is it a girl?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Everybody got on.
It almost felt like a community then.
Yeah, massively. Yeah. So it was that kind of thing that kept you going. And then, you know, you would see publications, and once in a while your work would go, yes. And it was just part and parcel of that, David. It's not really easy to quantify it, but I think the main thing that kept me going was this: I was allowed to be creative. So somebody would come with an idea, and then you'd turn it into something, and they were prepared to sit there and suffer and pay you for it. That's not winning anybody's book for me.
I've been there, mate.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's. I was thinking about you coming in. There's two words that came to mind. One was creative.
Yeah.
And the other one was grafter. Would you consider, and I think you've just nailed it there in terms of where that creative spirit came from.
Yep.
But you just come across as a really hard worker as well. Where does that, where that comes from?
All right, so same thing. Go back to my parents. My dad worked 6 days a week most of his life. My mum worked. She worked actually in a place in Middleton where they used to manufacture cigarettes. I think it was called Senior Service, but they manufactured Benson and Hedges, amongst other cigarette brands. And then she left there and then worked in the NHS for about 25 years. But at the same time, she was a painter and a sculptor. And they were always working. I mean, we didn't have a TV in our house until I was about 12. So it was reading. It's part of being creative. So, you know, you get into the literature, and I still read to this day. But mum and dad were really hard workers. Grandparents on both sides were the same. They're always hard workers. And I think my main driving force where hard work is concerned is it was the fear of being without.
Right.
Because I practically left home when I was 17, and you're standing on your own 2 feet.
Yeah.
And if you didn't work, you didn't eat.
Yeah.
So you would do anything legally.
Yeah.
To get by and to earn a crust. And it came from that. And even to this day, I mean, I'm 62 years old now. I still work 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And last week, because of this new venture that I'm about to launch, I clocked 72 hours last week.
Fuck.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Because, it's bloody hard work. You're doing long days. I'm rocking up at the studio at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm sometimes not getting out till 10:30, 11 o'clock in the evening. But you know what?
And you're still attaching that feeling of fear to drive you.
Absolutely. I think fear, if you walk into something and you kind of venture whatever and you've got no fear, I think you're a dick.
Yeah.
Because there is a possibility it could fail. It might not work. You can think of every kind of obstacle, every turn, this way, that way. But it's always that thing that you're not aware of that comes and bites you on the arse. So you've got to fear it. And it's just like with this, I'm on a massive new learning curve at the moment. It's areas that I've never been to before, and it's like, but I'm actually really enjoying it too.
Yeah.
So because I'm learning something, I'm now having to dip my feet into a world of a lot of my clients, like people like yourself, who come in and they work in completely different fields to what I do. So I now feel out of my depth, and I'm having to dip my toe into their world, and it's like, it's really strange, but in a very good, positive way. So I'm just like a sponge. I'm just absorbing all of this, and I am looking forward to this new launch. And the other thing that I'll say here and now, I will never stop tattooing.
Yeah,
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Well, you spoke to me. We'll get onto the new venture as
Yeah.
well, Lou, at some point. I remember you saying to me, I think it was the last time I came in, that there's definitely there's an art form to tattooing, but in the modern world, it's changing a little bit.
Yeah.
And the fact that perhaps now it's becoming less of an art and more of a social media play around how you present.
Yeah.
Like, as one of the originals,
Yeah.
like, what's your view of that in terms of how it's all changing?
So it's almost like and there's a lot of cliches you can put here. The emperor's new clothes, and you're like, yeah, okay then. Or the new kid on the block, or the one who comes along who's going to set the world on fire. And you know what? In the 80s, I was that person.
Yeah.
And it was, and you used to get these old school guys, and they're just going, yeah, whatever. And you just think, fuck off. But then years later, you think, yeah, they were right all along. So with tattooing, it's changed drastically. Very, very brief prime example, women getting tattooed. It was in the 80s, it was like, don't want to go near her.
Yeah.
Loose woman and all that. Now, there's women walking down the street and you're just like, Jesus Christ, they're covered in them. But now I think it's gone to the point where it's too much. And in this mad, batshit crazy world of social media, it's like everybody's out to shock, but it doesn't shock anybody anymore because you see it all the time. They're on the faces, they're on the neck, they're on the hands, and you just think, why? Because I sorry to interrupt. I know as a tattooer, there are certain things that will work and certain things that won't work. And they're all, everybody's going on about fine line tattooing. It's nothing new, Dave. It's been around the block so many times. But here's the thing, and this is the problem with social media. When it's first done, it looks great.
Yeah.
And it's there. Not what you're seeing is something freshly done. Not showing you 3, 4, 5 years down the line because it looks like a piece of dog shit.
Yeah.
So I say to people when they come in, it's like, oh, I want this fine line, or I want pastel colours or whatever. And I'll just say, absolutely no problem. But I'm going to tell you this, it will look like crap or whatever.
Yeah.
If you have the pastel colour, it'll look like you've got a bruise or some bad rash or whatever. But after telling you that, it's your decision because you're making an informed decision. That's part of being professional as a tattooer. You have to warn people of the pitfalls.
Yeah.
And if they then choose to do it, and another example, oh, I met this bird, I want a name tattooed, like, don't do it, mate. And you say it, and they go, no, this is the one. And then 6 weeks later, they're back in, and you just think, well, all right, I'm just regenerating more business here.
Yeah.
But that is the truth of it. So you see all this stuff, and I'll give you another example. You'll see these guys, you get the railings done, got the fade haircut, and they've got the permatan, and they've got like, they're tattooed up to the jaw, and they'll have something on the side of the face, and the hands down to the fingertips, the whole body. And from a distance, they remind me of those old photographs of coal miners who come up from the pit face.
Yeah.
They look grubby. They look like they need a wash. And there's that much going on in the work that you can't actually tell what it is. And you look at it and you just think, what is it? But then you go back to work that influenced me when I first came into tattooing, which was Japanese work. Now that's never changed. It looks absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And I see work that's been in the skin 30 years and it still looks good.
Yeah.
So
when everything's changing then, Lou, and you've got trends coming in and out, are you conscious of how you as an artist stay relevant in all of that? Or do you have certain principles that you just stick to? How?
I guess it comes down to Darwinian theory. You've got to adapt to survive.
Yeah.
If you stick to one style, you'll become irrelevant.
Right.
So for me, it's not about, I'm going to do this style, that style. For me, first and foremost, it's good tattooing. If you do good work, it's an advertisement for you everywhere that person goes, and it's your name on it. So what you don't want to be doing is obviously doing work that, it's all cool and trendy and everything, but then looks like a bag of shit a few years down there because it's my name on it. So I'm always trying to be aware of, let's do this in a way where I'm giving my client what they want, but at the same time, I'm doing it to suit me as well. So it's just meeting somewhere in the middle, and that's almost like a form of negotiation.
Yeah.
You're negotiating a contract somewhere, and you've got to get the best out of it for you. You've got to get the best out of it for your client, because you don't want your client going away and then 2 months later saying, "I'm not happy with it." It. You know what I mean? So it's that. So yeah, to stay relevant, you have to change, you have to adapt, but there are some things where I draw the line, and one of them is face tattoos. I just think, no, because I genuinely, sincerely believe that a lot of people who get work like that, there's issues going on there. And I don't want to be anybody who contributes to pushing that person off the edge. And I've seen it happen countless
Do you
times.
refuse to do face tattoos?
Yeah, I just won't do them. I've done one. I tell a lie. So he's an old client. He's called Mark. I'm not going to say his surname, but he's retired. He's very heavily tattooed. He's financially independent, and his mindset is, I don't give a shit. And he's just had a little anchor done on his, and I'm okay with that, because I know the guy is not barking mad, or he's not got any mental health issues. He actually worked in mental health, to be fair.
Right.
But that was the exception. But mostly, I would just say, please don't do it.
Yeah.
Now, I know full well if somebody comes in and says, and I go say, please don't do it, they'll just go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but I've not got it on my conscience.
Yeah. Talking about your clients, Lou, I don't know if it was the last time I was in or the time before, but you'd had a cancellation, I think, in the morning. I was in the afternoon.
Yep.
And I asked you what had happened, and you said, I'm not sure what's happened, Dave, but he's been in and out of prison, and it might be that he's just been locked up and he just can't come in today because of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, obviously, you've been in the game for such a long period, mate. The stories that you must have had and the conversations that you've got, is there anything that stands out?
There's a few.
You must normalise it, right?
There's a few. There was one in particular, and I'm not going to mention any names whatsoever here. So this was a guy who was a regular client. And he says to me, it's going back a few years, this as well. So he said, I've got an acquaintance, he wants a piece of work by you. And he said, I just need to say this guy he's a big player. And I'm thinking, okay. And he said, he'll come in, he'll give you the design, do the design, don't give him a price. He said, he will pay you. And he said, don't ask any questions. So I said, okay. So this guy come in, and all I can say about this guy, I mean, immaculately dressed. I mean, really smart, proper bespoke suit on. And I know my stuff with suits, and this was like Savile Row jobby, this. And everything about him was perfect. The cuffs under were perfect length, cufflinks, tie, handmade shoes, the lot. So I thought, all right, this guy's worth a few quid and he's a player. Did this piece of work down his shin. He didn't move once, not once. And he had this girl with him who was she was stunning. She had really short blonde hair. Let's say she had a perfect chest.
Yeah.
Right? Piercing blue eyes. She said 2 words to me, hello and goodbye. And she didn't utter a word. And I found that really, but same thing, didn't ask any questions. So I'd finished the work, and he goes, and he's impeccable Queen's English. Thank you so much for fitting me in, because he said, and I appreciate that you've done a late shift. And he just handed me an envelope. And I didn't do anything. I just left the envelope on the desk, and off they trotted, and that was it. So I opened up the envelope. There was about £1,000 in cash. It's like, and then there was this little bag of powder.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh shit, that's not what I think it is. I was like, I've never tried it. I'm not into it. So anyway, a couple of days later, I've got this other client in who I know is into all of that kind of stuff. So I went, got a present for you. And he went, oh, dude. Oh. I said, do you want any money for it? So I said, no. I said, it's yours. I said, it's a gift. I said, don't want any money. Because I don't want to get done for drug dealing when I'm not actually a drug dealer or anything like that. So I gave it to him. That was that. About 2 days later, my phone rings. This lad's name pops up, and I'm like, hello. And it was a girl. And she went, hi Louis, this is girlfriend. And I said, yeah, everything all right. I know you gave something the other day. And I went, yeah. And she said, I'm really worried. So I said, why? She says, well, he's asleep on the sofa. And I went, yeah, and? She said, well, he's been asleep for about 24 hours. And I went, oh, shit. I said, is he breathing? So she said, yeah. I said, well, tell you what, if he stops breathing, ring an ambulance. And then I was bricking it because I'm thinking, oh, my God, what's going on? Anyway, the following day, phone rings. It's like, and he goes, dude, you've got to get me some more of that. And I was like, no fucking way. I just said, in fact, I didn't even give it to you. And he goes, mate, he said, that is the best stuff I've ever had in my life. He said, it was amazing. I said, I don't give a shit. I said, just don't get me involved in it. So the next time that I see the guy who introduced me to the guy, and he just went, don't ask any questions. I will never forget that day, Dave, as long as I've got an hole in me.
Does it play on your mind as to who was that character?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I've got no idea who he was. I don't want to know who he was. My endearing memory of this guy was how impeccably dressed he was.
And obviously
he could have passed off anywhere, but he had presence.
Yeah.
So he was a big lad, but he wasn't built like a brick shithouse. But he was one of those people you'd look at him and you just think, I won't want to have a fight with him.
Yeah.
Because you just knew there was something about him. So yeah, you do get people like that. And then there was another standout client. He's probably the wealthiest guy I've ever had in my studio. And he's one of those people who's so unassuming that it was hard to comprehend him. Now I know this guy, when I say wealthy, we're going into 8 figures.
Yeah.
Easy. And he's in property. He's got a massive property portfolio. He's got property all over the world. But he's the kind of guy, he's a white T-shirt, jeans, Clark Desert shoes, which are his favourite shoes, just ordinary bomber jacket. He lives in a 3-bedroom detached house somewhere down south. He could have anything he wanted, and he doesn't give a shit because he doesn't need it.
Yeah.
He's gone beyond money, and you couldn't meet a nicer person. But you walk past you in the street and you wouldn't have a clue. And I really admire people like that, because it's not, he could have a £2 million watch on his wrist. He could be chauffeur driven anywhere, and he's not like that. He's the guy who used public transport.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. Yeah. And that impresses me because it says something about him.
About his character.
Yeah, he doesn't need to shout out to the world, I've got shitloads of money. And I like that. And I like to try and think I can learn something from him as I could learn from the impeccably dressed guy. And
what is it that you feel like you learn from that type of person? Because you strike me as, I hope you don't mind me saying this, an intellect first and foremost.
Right, thank you.
You know, you said earlier about the fact that you have been reading books since you were a kid.
Yeah.
Even your studio is just littered with books.
With
right?
books, yeah.
And your knowledge on just such a broad range of subjects is just frightening sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes I've always had a thirst for knowledge.
Yeah.
I was always that kid was like, what's that? How does that work? And the same thing again. So I'll go back to my dad with this one. He worked at a place in Trafford Park called Ream Blagden, and they manufactured oil drums. And as a kid, he took me around the plant. So I saw from pieces of sheet metal to a finished oil drum. Yeah. And he took me around the whole, and I was fascinated by it. So it just gave me this thirst for knowledge. And I always want to understand how things work. So it could be engineering, it could be economics, it could be travel, it could be culture, it could be art, it could be anything.
And do you see your client base then as an opportunity to learn from them?
Absolutely.
As well? So you're constantly just feeding off the people that you're with.
Yeah, you can get people come in, and I would say this probably accounts for at least 75% of the clients. They haven't got anything to say. There's nothing worth listening to. So you play the game. Yeah. You will speak to them, you will converse, you'll talk about, and usually it's either Man United or what. Yeah, and it's like, fine, I'm not interested in football, but I'll go along with it anyway because that's what you do. But then the other 25% will be people have got something interesting to say, and then you've got, out of that 25%, there's a small group of them who really engage.
Yeah.
And they are fascinating. And I just want to know everything about it. Well, not in a nosy kind of way. It's just because I'm genuinely interested. I get people come in, and I'm not going to name anyone here, but there's a lady who comes in, multimillionaire, but you would never guess it, Dave. And God, she's switched on.
Yeah.
I mean, she's as sharp as a fucking razor.
Yeah.
But you would, if you passed her in the street, you'd almost be tempted to give her some change. Go and get a, no. You underestimate her. She'd just chew you up and spit you out. And I am fascinated because I'm thinking, I want to learn something from you. Because I can use that for me.
Yeah.
So
there's curiosity built within you.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it is. And I just find it fascinating. So and if it's something that interests me, it stays with me. And it's all to do with the book. Sometimes, every once in a while, I'll pick up a book and read it. And I can't put it down. So there was one book a couple of years ago, Jill, my other half, it was actually father-in-law who bought me this book, and it was called Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And it was written by a guy called, get this, Simon Sebag Montefiore. Yeah, that's a gobful, isn't it? He's quite a well-known historian. His family owned Bletchley Park, where all the code breakers work. And the reason why I was bought this book was because I've always had an interest in politics and geopolitics. Prisoners of Geography, cracking book, definitely worth a read. But this book, it's like this thick, and you just go, oh, for fuck's sake, this is going to take me a lifetime to read through. I read the introduction. This was on Christmas Day morning. Something like 11:30. He said, are you getting out of bed or what? I couldn't put the bloody thing down, Dave. And it was fascinating. So all that crap that's going on in that country at the moment, I understand everything that's going on. So when it's being spoken about on the news, most people, it just goes, I know what's going on. So it gives me a better understanding of things. That's why I like learning. Because sometimes, Northern Ireland would be another example similar to what's going on in Jerusalem, Palestine, Israel, whatever you want to call it. There's a history behind it. If you don't understand the history, where it comes from, you'll have no idea of why they're doing it. It's just like one group of guys killing another group of guys. Serbia was the same.
Zero context.
Yeah, and I want to know. I want to understand what that's about. So then if you talk about it to people, you don't sound like a complete bell and just fudging it as you go along. You're actually talking with knowledge and with conviction. Yeah. So that's where it comes from. I don't think I'll ever change with that, to be honest. I'm just can't help it.
Yeah.
Jill's
It's fascinating, man.
I'm banned from watching documentaries at home. There you go.
You know, you spoke a little bit, well, you touched on earlier, you mentioned obviously you had a phone call off Paul Ince, and you're not a football fan. No. I don't think we've ever spoken about football. When you look at people's backstories, it's sometimes easy to pinpoint moments that may or may not be significant, but at least from a narrative standpoint, there might be significant moments. So I want to take you back to the 90s, right? I want to take you back to the 90s, right? And there's a cultural explosion in the UK at that time, and probably even more so in Manchester. You've got the Hacienda that's going bananas, probably in its pomp, and then you've got the Premier League is being broadcast globally. You've got a certain team in Manchester who are winning everything. And then all of a sudden your name gets associated, and celebrity culture's growing. Your name then gets associated with a certain Sir David Beckham, right?
That's the one.
So did that moment feel significant at the time for you? Or
No,
how did it?
Absolutely not. So when I very first met David, the guy who was the general manager at Flannels at the time, Tim, I can't remember Tim's surname, so if you're watching this, Tim, please forgive me. I was introduced by Tim, and Tim was a big mover and shaker in Manchester at the time. And he brought David to the studio. Now, bear in mind, at that time, he wasn't the megastar that he became. And it was one of them days where he came in and he had this top on that was like, it was like somebody had skinned Chewbacca, dyed it blue. So he had this big furry outfit on, these skinny leggings on, and you just think, what? what the fuck is that all about? And it's like, oh, I'm David. And I said, yeah, what can I do? What would you like? What can I help you? And he said, well, don't really know, but I'll know when I see it. And I was like, I can't really help you, mate. I said, you got to give me some idea. Anyway, off he trots. And that was that. And so 6 months later, there's a picture of him in the press and he's got Brooklyn written across the base of his back. And I was like, there's no loss to me, Dave. And I'm genuine when I say that. So then, not long after that, Roy Keane came in and he got some work done. And then Beckham came back. Only this time it was different because he knew what he wanted. So he gave me a verbal description. I want this image on my back. I want it to look like a bit like a crucifixion thing, but I want X, Y, Z in it. So as he's saying it, I'm just roughly sketching it out. And then I did a drawing. And he was like, nailed it. So then it was, I think it was either January or February, year 2000. I did the work. I came to the studio, we did the work. And off he trotted, and that was that. And I didn't even give it a backward glance.
Yeah.
It was about 3 or 4 months later, I was on holiday in Tenerife. I'll never forget the day. And it was really weird. It was really surreal, this. I'd come out of the hotel. There was a newspaper stand just down the way. And I'm looking at all these newspapers and I'm like, that's Beckham. That's that tattoo. And it was every fucking newspaper and it was on the front cover of every paper. And I'm like, so I picked every single paper up and bought every one of them and went back and I was like, look at this.
And was the story about the tattoo?
Yeah.
Or was it about football?
It was about the tattoo. It was nothing to do with football. It was all about the tattoo. So I came back home and I've got a posse of journalists at the studio and I was like, Jesus Christ, what's going on here? And everybody's wanting a story, everybody's wanting a quote, and I didn't know what to say because it was like, well, it's a tattoo. Yeah, but it's David Beckham. And I was like, yeah, and he's a football player. So what? So that happened. That was like Big Bang. And that was what really started it. So, and then you fast forward about 18 months later, I did a thing on the inside of his arm, which was a translation of her name into Hindi. And somebody in the press claimed that I'd spelt it wrong. So there was a feeding frenzy about that, of which I was the dish. And that was horrible.
Yeah.
I was being absolutely slaughtered in the press over that. And it comes down to one of them, Dave, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. Yeah. And the truth of it was that it was a phonetic translation because you couldn't translate the name directly.
Yeah.
But they didn't bother saying that. It came out afterwards that was the case.
You strike me as though you got pretty thick skin though, Lou. Did that affect you at the time or not?
It absolutely crushed me.
Did it?
Yeah, it was because it's horrible to see your name and then you're hearing it on the radio and on the TV. And I had an incident not long afterward. It was one of the breakfast programs and it came up, and did spell this name wrong. I actually rang through to the production desk and I said, you've got to the end of this program to retract that. Because I said, if you don't, I said, I'm telling you now, I'm going to have lawyers over you like a bad rash. And they did. They retracted it because it wasn't true.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I don't want to get tagged with something like that. So I've had both sides of that thing with the press where they build you up on one and then they savage you with another. And it's not nice. So I sympathise with anybody in the public eye when they're being dragged through the press like that because it's not nice. Unless you've experienced it, Dave, it's very, very difficult to quantify where you've got every man and his dog thinking, dickhead, bellend, arsehole.
What did you learn from it all then?
Eventually, the other cliche, there's no bad PR.
Yeah.
Can't quite agree with that. But it was, what I learned from it was you have to be guarded sometimes about what you say and what you do because people will take things out of context. And that's generally how they generate the story. They'll take a little soundbite out of something, one sentence out of a paragraph, and they'll crucify you with it. So I am always guarded now. I mean, to be fair, I don't get that kind of attention anymore because tattooing is so popular. I mean, every second player in the Premier League's got a full sleeve.
Yeah.
So it's no big deal anymore. I mean, David, I tattooed him for 11 years. I've not seen him for quite a long time. And he's covered in them. And he's got pieces of work on now that back in sort of between the year 2000 and 2005, the press meet would have been a shitstorm.
Yeah.
Now they don't care.
Yeah.
So that I guess in some ways it's a good thing. But go on, sorry.
So you said like during that moment when you met Dave for the first time, it wasn't necessarily a significant event. Looking back on it now, and what's happened since with how you've developed as an individual and your tattooing and the personal brand of Lou Molloy, I guess. Do you think that was a significant moment now?
I do now. Yeah, I do. I describe it as my big bang moment.
Yeah.
But at the time, no, it didn't seem like that. I mean, I've still got the original design. And weirdly, bizarrely, I slung it into the boot of my car when I finished the tattoo. And it was there for about 18 months. And I took it back out, I think, when I sold the car. And when I took it out, it was all crumpled and there was a big rip through it. And he'd actually signed it for me at the time. And I'm like, I should keep this really. So I've got it framed now and it's in my house and it's on the wall.
Yeah.
And the signature's faded, but you can still see it. And then I decided from that point onwards that every time I did a piece of work, he'd sign the design for me.
Yeah.
And I used to give them away to kids who were big fans.
Yeah.
I think there's 2 that I've kept, but all the others I gave them away.
Yeah.
And then everybody was going, oh, can you get me a signed shirt? Can you get me signed this? Can you get me signed that? And in the end, I'd said no, because people were getting them to sell them.
Yeah.
But so it came from this guy who come in with this blue Yeti outfit on, okay, to this mega star. And I tattooed him in the studio several times. I tattooed him at his place in Alderley Edge. I tattooed him at his place in Nether Alderley. I tattooed him in Madrid twice. I tattooed him in Milan.
Look, I didn't know all that.
I tattooed him in London. I tattooed him at the Lowry. And it was bonkers because, and I think the time that was the most crystallizing for how much of a star he was when I first tattooed him in Madrid. I was picked up at the airport.
Presumably this was when he was playing at Madrid, presumably,
Yeah. I was picked up at the airport and we had a team of cars following us, as in paparazzi. And when we got to the house, and it was a stunning house, they'd had some interior design and they'd done it all in like Moorish architecture.
Yeah.
Fucking amazing. And what we did was, because it was warm, we set up everything on like the patio. And a helicopter flew over and everybody piled in the house. And I was like, what are you doing? He's like, it'll be the press. I was like, oh, for God's sake. But it made me realise, you know, what this real mad, crazy world.
Do you think there's obviously the level of skill that you've got tattooing is very high, Lou, right? Because you've been doing it for so long and you're very skilled as an individual.
Yeah.
Do you think that was more important to that relationship, or do you think it was the trust factor in you as a character?
It was probably a little bit of both. Every time I worked on him, he would always say what he wants. And I use the expression now, David wants, David got. Yeah. Because, you know, if you start going down the road of, well, I'm not so sure, then they'll go somewhere else. And I didn't want to lose him as a client. Because at the time, it was massively beneficial to me, but it was also beneficial to the industry. And I'm always acknowledging of that. It wasn't just me. Yeah. It was all my colleagues, and it was one of them, everybody benefited from it. And now, love me or hate me, and I've got plenty of haters, and they said, I can't give a shit. Yeah. Because it is what it is. But there's a lot of people who are tattooing today because of those celebrities who were getting tattooed at that time. It wasn't just me, Dave. There was other tattooers in the industry. Well-known tattooer from London, Lal Hardy. He was tattooing a lot of celebrities. He tattooed Liam Gallagher, right? Patsy Kensit. Yeah. And so he was doing it in London. I was doing it in Manchester. And there was a few others as well. And it all contributed to making tattooing socially acceptable. Yeah. So it was great. But at that time, I didn't put that much significance on it. I think in hindsight, you can do.
Yeah.
But at the time, you just,
Yeah.
no, it didn't work
Yeah.
like that.
And you correct me if I'm wrong here, Lou, but you've tattooed a lot of people who've got profiles now. We were chatting off camera around the relationship that you've got with Bradley Wiggins, right?
Yeah.
Did that come off the back of all this noise?
It did. So I was first introduced to Bradley. I got into cycling in 2012. I was turning into Jabba the Hutt.
Well, I was going to say, I've seen some old pictures of you, mate.
And I'm thinking, shit, fast approaching 50, and I think I've got to do something here, because otherwise I'll go the way all of the other tattooers go, where they end up getting diabetes and all. And I'm thinking, no, I'm not doing that. So I got into cycling because I'd always been an armchair fan. First started watching it in, I believe it was 86, when Channel 4 would do the highlights, and I loved it. And I couldn't afford a bike at the time. The nearest I got was I bought a Z Peugeot Rally Banana and Fago tops from Harry Hall when it was in the Corn Exchange. I think it's Triangle now. And that was the nearest I ever got to it. But I used to love watching it. I would read stuff in the press about it. And it was always there in the back of my mind. So when I decided to go on this journey about weight loss and getting fit and everything, I thought, that's going to be the one. And I did, and I loved it. And that was the same year when Bradley won the Tour. And I was introduced to Bradley through a mutual friend who said to me one day, Bradley wants to get some work done from you. So obviously he'd heard of me already. And he came in and we just bonded. And I think part of the reason why we bonded was because I didn't ask him all the dumb questions.
Yeah.
How fast can you go on a bike? All that kind of shit. And I just didn't. I was asking him more questions about the old school cyclist, because
he's a fan as well, right? He's a huge fan.
He's got this encyclopedic knowledge of the history of cycling. So I was talking to him about people like Robert Miller, who's now Philippa York, whole different story. Sean Yates, who I've met and tattooed.
Yeah.
And then Greg LeMond, Bernardino, the professor, I forgot his bloody name, blonde-haired guy with the glasses, Laura Fino. And he just knew everything. So I would just sit there in awe of his knowledge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then we would talk about things like at Sky, and at the time, Dave Brailsford, he was put on a pedestal by Bradley, and it's a completely different story now. But so I guess same thing, because of me reading a lot, I understand all that situation. I know why all that shit happened, and if you can step back and look at the bigger picture, it gives you the knowledge. So you know what I mean. You understand. So you're not taking one side, you're not taking the other side. You are seeing the bigger picture. But getting into the cycling, and then through him, I met other cyclists. Tattooed Owen Dewell.
He was in the team. He was in Team Sky when I was there, I think.
Right.
Owen,
lovely lad. And then I've had a few others in who are, and not in a derogatory way, but second division cyclists. They're on the sort of pro continental teams, and they're those sort of cyclists who they never become a big name, they never make big amounts of money, but you're just in awe of how.
It's crazy sport.
It's brutal. It's absolutely
brutal. You as an individual, you might not remember this, Lou, but I think you overtook me on your bike years ago on the Grain Road.
I do.
Dropped me.
I had a rucksack on as well. I do remember that. I was just desperate to be on the bike all the time, and I just loved it. And I always rode within myself. So I never purposely went out to try and beat people or whatever. It was just, I rode at a pace that I felt comfortable with. I knew when I could push it a bit, and I knew when I had to dial it back a bit.
But there's an element of, obviously you had a weight loss journey as part of it, but there's, when you've done what you've done, Ventoux, you've done Roubaix, you've done lots of difficult events. So there's an element of suffering involved in all that. What do you get from that? Like, why do you do it?
You could apply that to anything, Dave. anybody, there's no success without sacrifice.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, there's always going to be a sacrifice there. And it's the sense of achievement. And I'd rather try and fail than not try at all. And some, you know, like with come just purely on the cycling, I did the 3 climbs of Vontu in one day. Now that was hard, but I watched a documentary about this kid who'd done it, and he was trying to get on the British Paralympic team. I can't remember the guy's name. He'd had all this surgery done on his back, and he'd had all his spine fused, and he was in a bad way, but he did it, and I just thought, you can fucking do it. I can do it. And I set out to do it, and we did it for charity, and we raised a few quid, and we did a few others as well. We did one where we rode from Morecambe to Bridlington. I think they call it the Way of the Roses, and I was absolutely dying on my arse. I'd got norovirus, and I couldn't keep anything down, and it was awful. But I did it.
Yeah.
And it was, I looked like death warmed up at the end of it. I was grey. But I think we raised about 55 grand for that.
Yeah.
We did it for Christie's, Barocca, Jean, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it was horrible, and you're cold and you're wet, and you just think, what the fuck am I doing this for? And you've got an arse that looks like a baboon's arse because you just raw everywhere. But you know what? When you've done it, you just feel so good.
Yeah.
And then you soon get put in your place, because then you'll realise somebody can do that in half the time that you did it. And it's like, oh, for God's sake. But you know what? I'm not walking away from it. I'll still do it. I'll know I'll never be the winner, but it's the sense of achievement to do it. And I apply that in my work life and my personal life. Either do it properly or just don't do it at all. Because there's no point. If you're going to be half-arsed about it, just don't bother. So you might want to do something, and you'll start the journey and you'll fail, and then you'll do it again and you'll fail and you'll fail and you'll fail. And then one day you make a bit of progress, and then 27 failures in, you succeed. Yeah. And that makes it sweeter.
Yeah.
You can relate to
100%, mate. Yeah. And there's an element of, you know, suffering in terms of those big days out, those big events. But equally, I don't know if you feel this, Lou, but there are nicer elements to cycling. So there's an element of getting into that state of just using it as a washing machine for your head, right? And just getting into that state of flow, where you're not necessarily suffering,
right?
But it's enabling you to be more creative, or it's enabling you to clear your mind. Do you use it for that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and there is a lot of this thing about mental health in this day and age, and exercise is so important for that. I mean, you know, you can have the shittest day in work, no show clients, or someone just being a dick or whatever, and you go home and you'll jump on the bike, on the static bike, and you'll do an hour and a half, 45 minutes, whatever the case may be. You get off that bike and you are calm, chilled. You don't care. You put it behind you, and it's great for that. Yeah. It's absolutely fabulous. And you just saying that, it just reminded me of a moment. A couple of years ago, I went out to the Vontu, and I didn't actually do the Vontu on this particular trip. I'd gone out there for about 4 or 5 days. So you're in Provence, and it was April, and I was riding through this section it's near a place called Vaison-la-Romaine, and this beautiful, gorgeous little town. It's an old Roman town, and there's still Roman ruins there, and you can still see it all. And you're riding through all these fields, and obviously Provence is known for its lavender fields. But I was riding through all these orchards, and there were cherry trees, plum trees, apple trees, and they were all in blossom. And I had this flashback to the Vincent van Gogh paintings. Now, when you look at those paintings, and all you see is these big splodges of paint. Yeah. They were fucking exactly the same. And it was weird. It was real, sort of deja vu, where you're just thinking, actually, this guy was in this area. When he was doing all this stuff, I mean, he was absolutely barking. I think we now know him, he was bipolar. Yeah. But you could see it. And it was really, really weird experience. But God, it was like, fucking hell, I get it now. Yeah, yeah. And if I hadn't seen the stuff in the galleries that my mum used to talk about, seeing it for real knowing his backstory, you'd never connect it all together. So it was that was one of those moments where you're like,
Yeah, and I guess the process of being out on your bike and being able to access that subconscious part of your mind because you're in that state.
and then I'm not joking, this is God's honest truth, this, I was brought right back down to earth about a minute later when I realised I was being chased by two big mastiffs who were guard dogs for a flock of sheep. Now, thankfully, there was a fence between me and the dogs, but they shit. But yeah, you do get those little moments when you're out on a bike, and you could just be riding along on the flat, you could be on a descent, you could be blowing your lungs out your arse going up a hill, but there's a kind of, it's like a transcendence where you just go somewhere else. And it's very hard to explain, and you know, people, yeah, but you look like you're dying. Well, you are, and you're sweating and you're gurning, and but
Yeah.
there's that sense of achievement when you've done
100%, mate. 100%. I want to take you a little bit back to the timeline. So, you know, you'd done the 90s had happened, the Beckham tattoo had kicked off, and then it was about 7 years later. I was kind of obsessed with Miami Ink when I was at uni.
Yeah,
I was obsessed with it on MTV.
yeah,
And you ended up doing the UK version of that, right? Which was London Ink, which is, I guess, an opportunity for you to further grow the tattooing and the personal brand of Lou Molloy, right?
yeah.
What did that experience look like for you from the inside?
Yeah, I often get asked about this, and I can definitely put a few things to bed with this. I've got to say, massive learning curve. It was immensely hard work in that you'd be on set for like 14 hours a day, but not in a good way. Most of it was really boring.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time you wasn't on camera, it'd be somebody else on camera. It was done on a low budget, which caused no end of problems. There was some of my co-workers who I didn't get on with because, let's say, lifestyle differences.
Yeah.
And we'll leave that there. One of the other misconceptions was that I got paid shitloads of money for it. I didn't. None of us did. We were on a buyout contract, so there was no repeat fees or anything like that. I actually lost money making that program, but I could see the bigger picture because that was a PR golden ticket.
Yeah.
Oh God, I couldn't have asked for better because that program went out all over the world.
Yeah.
And brought me clients from all over the world. And it opened so many doors for me, including the new thing that I'm going to open. I got all kinds of offers from it, Dave, and majority of them I had to turn them down. I just simply couldn't do it because I had to cash in on that exposure. So, but then I worked with some people, and this is a shout out to these people. There's an advertising agency in London called Mother.
Yeah.
I believe they're one of the biggest, if not the biggest, independent ad agency going. And I worked with their team on an ad campaign. That was incredible because you were sat around this table of creative people who were just, and I felt that big.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I'm fucking way out of my depth here. And these people were brainstorming these ideas, and I'm just sort of sat there like that, you know, like, but it was such a good experience because I'm thinking like, I'm seeing something really different here that is creative. And what you was looking at was hundreds of hours work that was condensed into something like a 30-second advert.
It's the commercial side of creativity, right?
Yeah. And then, so there was another one. We made an advert for the show. We did it at, I think it was Shepperton Studios, and it was all done on green screen. And it was really weird because, and I had a suit on, and I was doing all this weird shit, and just like, yeah, oh, do it again, do this, do that. It's like, yeah, okay. So you just do it with a smile on your face. And then 12 months later, I was staying at K West, where the BBC studios are. And this hotel was full of all these creative people. And this guy comes up to me and goes, "Well done on your win, mate." I was like, "What?" He said, "Well done on your win." So I said, "What win? What are you talking about?" And he went, "Your advert." I was like, "What advert?" He said, the advert for London Ink. I'm like, sorry, mate, you completely lost me here. He said, well, your advert won the gold medal at the Advertising Industry Awards and just been held in Barcelona. And I went, really? And he said, yeah. I was like, oh, right. I said, oh, thank you. I said, I'm being honest here. I said, I didn't have a clue. So the next day I'm on set and the commission editor's there. Lovely lady called Victoria Noble. Great to work with. She was good to work with her. And Victoria said, apparently we won gold medal. And I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, was nobody going to mention it? Well, we didn't really think. So it was just like, it made you realise how expendable you were.
Yeah.
Because you were just a face. You were front of house.
Yeah.
That's all you were. So log that one. Another little learning curve.
What did it never? They never did a repeat series, right? Was it just one and out?
No, they did 2 series.
Oh, was it 2?
Second series wasn't as successful because they put more money into the production and less money into the PR. Whereas on the first series, it was the opposite way. They spent a shed load of money on PR, but not much on the production. And God, it told. It was really, really difficult making that. One cameraman, one sound man, one director, one of everything. Whereas on the second series, it was a lot more. So it was a lot easier to do. But you live and you learn. And I even though all the downsides to it, there was plus sides to it. And I appreciate all of it now. But the one thing I will put to bed is we did not make a lot of money making that series. The money in TV is shit.
Yeah.
It really is shit. Because nowadays they're competing with 600 other channels and it's just like, oh.
Yeah.
But overall, I've got to say it was a positive experience for all the positives that I pulled out of it.
Yeah.
Because I met some wonderful people. I met some very creative people. And it gave me a true understanding of how TV works.
Yeah.
And to put that into a nutshell, you were looking at a big team of people, maybe doing 1 month's work for a programme that lasted 48 minutes.
Yeah.
They don't last for an hour, they last for 48 minutes because you put all the ad breaks in. And you've got all these people, narrators, producers, sound, editing, the production team in general, how they put it all together, and then it goes on TV and they advertise. So you got the advertising and it's endless. And you just think, wow, really? And I've only ever watched them once and I've never watched them again. I can't bring myself to watch them.
Is that because you're too fat on it?
No, no, I'm not. No, I can look back with pride. Because I think, that used to be you bastard. But no, I just can't bring myself to watch it because it just makes me go, Jesus Christ. Because you can hear, all right.
Mate, you've had an unreal. I mean, you've just lived quite an extraordinary life in my view, anyway. But if someone was to strip everything back now from you, take the studio away, take the reputation away, take the clients away, and strip everything back, what would be left of that makes Lou? Like, what makes you as a character?
That's not easy to answer that. I think it comes back to what my driving force is, a thirst for knowledge.
Yeah.
And there was always, I think there was always a thirst for acceptance as well. I always felt like I had to prove myself, I had to make a mark.
Yeah.
And it was tricky. The two people I wanted to impress more than anybody was my parents.
Yeah. It's often the case, isn't it?
Not once. Nothing.
Nothing.
Nope.
Never got anything.
I'm sorry.
I'm Lou.
Nothing. Absolutely. Fuck all.
How does that make you feel? Obviously, it's emotional for you, but does that make you feel resentment or?
No. No resentment. It is what it is. I can't change it.
In many ways, it's made who you are today, doesn't it?
It did. it was just really difficult because everybody around me was like, it's all this.
Yeah.
I never got it from where I actually wanted it.
Have you ever thought about like why?
No. I think I remember my dad once saying to me, he said, it was words to the effect of, we show your sister more affection than you because you've been successful. And the first thing that popped into my head was, so I'm being crucified because I am successful.
Yeah.
And I just think, like, fuck you. I wouldn't do that now.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was like, you fucking arse. But I can't change it. So you put it behind you and get on with it.
Yeah.
And I try and use that now as a driving force.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, you know, mum and dad they were hardworking. They were content with their lot. Sometimes I was really frustrated with my dad because my dad was very clever, but never utilised that knowledge, and he had the opportunity to do it. And I see that as a waste, where I was like, no, I'm never going to do that. If I'm offered an opportunity and I think it'll work, I'll grab it with both hands and I'll fucking run as fast as I can with it, because you only get one shot and time never comes back.
I fucking love that, mate. And I think there's an element of whether these experiences are positive or negative from our parents. Even if it feels negative because I'm not getting the validation that I was expecting, as an example.
Right.
There's an element of being able to take that as a gift, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, the man that I'm sat opposite now
Right.
has succeeded in many ways in life, right? And has lived an extraordinary life.
Yeah.
And right at the beginning of this conversation, it was taking you back to your childhood and the way that you were parented. And even though you didn't get that from your mum and dad, you probably wouldn't be the guy that you are now, would you?
Same thing. I had the conversation with Bradley about this. Everything that I've been through and everything that he's been through, I said, if I could go back in time, knowing what I know now, I wouldn't change a thing.
There you go.
Because I wouldn't be who I am. So I understand, and it's a cliche to say character building. Yeah, it is character building, but sometimes when you're getting spanked, I mean metaphorically, you're getting spanked all the time. It's the constant knockbacks, but I realise now that's what drove me.
Yeah.
Because like subconsciously, even though I wasn't fully understanding of it at the time, that was the thing that gave me that, well, fuck you attitude.
Yeah.
I'm going to prove you wrong. And it was the same thing. It was like live or die trying.
Yeah.
And I've carried that all the way. So I mean, coming into this new thing that I'm doing now, I'll be honest, Dave, I'm absolutely bricking it, because I've been working 12 months on it, working my bloody fingers to the bone. I'm having to learn a whole new skill set. I'm dumping a load of money into it. Me and my other half, we're putting our own personal money into it, and it could all go tits up. But if I don't try, I'll never know.
Well, it goes back to what you said, doesn't it? About you get one opportunity.
Yeah, you do.
Right? So talk to us about this new venture, because you're using your talents, your experience, your thirst for knowledge to pivot a little bit, aren't you?
Going back to when I was doing the TV work, one of the things that I was asked about doing was colouring books. And you think, but I didn't go, I wasn't dismissive of it. There was something that planted a little seed there. So go back 12 months and I'm reading this little news article about this couple who'd set up this company. The company's called Colour My Street, so I'm not going to pull any punches where this is concerned. And they set this company up a couple of years previous, and they said why they did it, what the motivations were. And within a very short space of time, they had a massive turnover. I think, okay, this is interesting. So I bought some of their stuff. And when it came through, I was like, wow. I'm thinking, is this a joke? is this for real? But then I thought, well, no, because, and this is part of my learning curve. I had to step back and say to myself, I might have an opinion on it, but if it's successful, I can't knock that.
Yeah, true.
There's an audience out there for it who's prepared to pay for it. So I just thought, okay, I can do this. And then I remembered back for the time when I was offered it, and I'm thinking, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it my way. So I'm launching this new business. It's called Inside the Lines, and it's colouring books for adults and children. And my first books are about Manchester, Salford and Liverpool. So what I've done is from each of those cities, I've taken an iconic buildings, iconic places, and I've done my drawings and people can colour them in. But on the opposite page, it gives you a concise history of that building, who the architect was, who it was commissioned by, what it was used for, what it's being used for now, stuff like that. So there's a genuine human interest there. And all of these places that I'm featuring, I've got some kind of a personal association with them. But as well, at the same time, I thought, well, I don't just want to limit myself to doing that side of it, because I'm sat on 44 years worth of tattoo designs. Now, be as it may, I'm not going to start doing books on tattoo designs, because I will get to it eventually, but it's other little things that I'm passionate about where design is concerned.
Yeah.
So one of my book releases is called Psychedelic Sharks. And all it is different kinds of sharks, but there might be Japanese pattern infill, or it could be a pattern in the background, or it could be a kaleidoscope pattern. And there's all these different sharks. I've set up a YouTube channel where I'm actually colouring these images in, but doing it on time lapse.
Yeah.
I've done another book called The Symphony of Flowers, which was inspired by a tattoo I did on this girl called Maeve. It's like a gramophone player and instead of spewing out music, it's spewing out flowers.
Yeah.
And these flowers dance across 16 pages of the book and go into somebody's ear. So it's like a visual form of music, if you like.
Yeah, I think you showed me that one in the studio.
Yeah, and the more I think about it, I'm just thinking, God, there's another idea that I can do, and there's another idea. So I've currently got in my head about 50 books that I can potentially do. And now all I've got to do is find the bloody time to do it, because time is always my enemy.
Yeah.
But this is now where I've started having to learn how to do a little bit of outsourcing. So, for example, I started doing lessons in video editing for the YouTube stuff. Sat down with this girl and she uses Adobe Premiere Pro, and I'm just thinking, when you look at me, you think, holy Christ, there's a lot to learn here. But I've got to a point where I've actually said to this girl, I need you to help me with this.
Yeah.
So I'm now giving her raw film footage and she's doing the editing for me. And so that's something that I've learned. I've never really had to do that before.
Yeah.
And then there's other aspects to it where I'm working with the printing company, the Entwistle Group, based in Manchester, because I want to try and keep this local, to keep it in like a local little economy kind of thing. And one of the managers there, a guy called Adam, lovely guy, and he's helped me massively with this, because I'm going in as green as the grass and I don't know jack shit about this. So he's helping me and guiding me, because I'm having to defer to his experience. So there's something else that I'm learning. And it just goes on and on and on. And I've got my website guy who's been doing my website for years. And he's like, oh, bloody hell. And so this is another thing that I'm doing. So I've got to do drawings, I've got to do marketing, I've got to do the YouTube stuff, and then I've got to get on the social media side. And then if the orders come in, I've got to start posting them out. And I'm just thinking, I can't do all this on my own. It's just too much. So I've now got to learn how to delegate things. And I've got to try and find people who can help me with this. So it's a whole new thing for me. And for a lot of people, and like some of these clients who come in my place, they do this shit every day. So to them, it's nothing. But to me, it's a big deal, because I've not done it before. And I know I'm going to make mistakes with it. And I know I'm going to end up falling on my arse at some point. But I'll just pick myself back up again and think, all right, that's how not to do it. Let's learn how to do it the right way. So as much as it's really hard work and it's difficult, I'm really enjoying it. And it's great. So I want to try and get it out there. Kids can learn from it with the books about the towns and cities, because there's all kinds of interesting stuff in there. Every every book I do will hopefully feature a prison and a pub.
Talk to me about that then.
So, on the Manchester edition, the prison is Strangeways, obviously. And there was, as kids, you can see the tower. And everyone used to go, that's where they used to hang people in there. And it's like, oh, no, they didn't. It's a service tower.
Yeah.
It's a ventilation shaft. But that was the story that was going around. They actually had a purpose-built execution cell in there. I think there was 105 people were executed in total before capital punishment was abolished. But the other one, and this is one of my endearing memories of Strangeways, I've never been in there as an inmate, I will add. When you used to drive past it as a kid, there was this smell of rotten cabbage and it was vile. And my dad used to go, yeah, because if you're a naughty boy, that's where you'll go, and that's what we'll feed you, cabbage. I'm like, oh, best behaviour, Dad, honestly. Years later, I found out it was actually Boddington's brewery when they're brewing the hops.
Yeah.
But that was that. So the pub that I feature is the Marble Arch. I used to have a client, a guy called Steve Arch, who sadly died a few years ago. And he worked for a company called LSD Limited, Lighting Scenic Design. He was a lighting technician. So all the big concerts, all the big arenas, he would be there. And every time he'd come up, he'd ring me up, Lou, I'm going to be in town, you do a bit of work. And we go out for a drink afterwards. And we always went in the Marble Arch. And Steve absolutely loved that pub because it's a microbrewery.
Yeah.
And it was great. So I've done this picture of the Marble Arch. But I've said in the dialogue, I can't mention the Marble Arch without mentioning a few other pubs. And I've mentioned Peveril of the Peak because it's quite a famous pub. And I've mentioned the Edinburgh Castle because it's a fucking great pub. And I will do this for everyone. So in the Liverpool edition, it's the pub that's opposite the Philharmonic Hall. And it's a stunning building, David.
Yeah.
The architecture and the interior design is like, wow. The prison is Walton Jail. But I'm featuring the original Walton Jail, which is not what you think it is.
Yeah.
Salford has got a prison. I've not fully mentioned, but it's on the site of Agecroft Power Station as it used to be. So I've featured the power station as a drawing, and I've put in the dialogue that there is now a prison on the site. I can't remember the name of the prison. And the pub that I featured is the Black Friar.
Yeah. I've not been there recently, but it's supposed to be really nice now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all been done up. It was empty for years and years and years. And I think Fred Doan might actually own it. Salboy and all of that. And so every book that I do will feature a prison and a pub because it's a meeting point. And one of the things about all these books is to try and get people off doom scrolling on the phone.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. It's a mixture of mindfulness and creativity, isn't it?
Yeah.
And doom scrolling is a fucking massive problem for kids and for adults, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, I know these books are not going to be for everybody, and that's fine. But for people who like them, come along on the journey. And I am actually really enjoying doing it. It's hard work. It's not always easy to do some of the stuff because you've got to think about these ideas and then you've got to put it down on paper, and then you've got to help people by doing these little video clips saying this is how I would do this, but you don't have to do it like that. So there's a little bit of an element of Bob Ross going on in there. Yeah. If you don't know who Bob Ross is, look him up. And it's all just about enjoying it.
Well, I guess it's feeding that thirst for knowledge that you've got in many ways, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But in a probably an area that maybe is a little bit uncomfortable for you or unfamiliar. It's
because even though I've visited a lot of these places personally, and this is one that I found out that I didn't know about. So the Catholic Cathedral in Liverpool, Mum used to take me as a kid, and I love that building. Brutalist architecture. It's very Marmite. You either like it or you loathe it. But inside all the stained glass in there, I was fascinated with the colours, and I used to go right up. So my whole field of vision would be like red or blue or green, and just something about it that just resonated with me. And then what I didn't know until recently, just up the road from the studio, there's a place called Hotwood Hall College.
Yeah,
and there's
a football there.
Right, well, there's a building there, there's a chapel, and it has been said by many people that was built as a prototype for the Liverpool Cathedral, because they had to work out loading, load bearings and all that kind of thing. And you can see the conical tower, and it's almost a mirror image of the one at Liverpool. And I was like, shit, I need to go and see that. Now, I know somebody who works there, and they've said to me they're actually using it as a storage facility now. I was like, do you think you could get me access to it at some point? They said, when the time's right, So I'm going to go in and photograph it. But you learn these interesting little snippets about these places, and some of it is really interesting. I'll tell you another one. Central Library in Manchester, and I wound somebody up about this. I had a client who was right on PC, and I said, well, that Central Library in Manchester, they've got swastikas all over that building. Have they? Yeah. No, they haven't. I said, no, they have. I said, I promise you, believe me, they're there. So you go and have a look at them. So they did. They rang me up and said, you're right, it is. What it actually is, it's a Roman key pattern, but it's in the form of a swastika that's continuous. I mean, the design's thousands of years old, and it's way before the Nazis. But there was that one. There was another building that I didn't feature in the end, Cheetham Hill Library. Got these, they're called sconces on the walls, and they've got names of famous people on, and Shakespeare is one of them, but it's spelt wrong.
Like that tattoo you did?
Yeah, that'll be the one. I have actually done that. Any tattoo can turn around and say they've never done it, they're lying. Everybody's done it. And I've always been able to correct it, thankfully. But yeah, that's the worst feeling in the world, Dave. Your stomach just sinks. You go, oh God. Actually, Owen Dewell, when I tattooed him, he had the date done that he won his gold medal on, and he gave me the wrong date.
I've heard that before.
So that wasn't my fault, and we corrected it. Yeah. But yeah, it happens. It does happen. But it's the same thing. It's the learning curve in that you'll write it out, you show it to the client, is that right? Yeah. You'll stencil it on. Are you sure? You'll start just, are you absolutely sure? And then you'll do it. And sometimes you're thinking, oh God. And the worst one is when somebody comes in and they want lines and lines of text. So you have to go through it. You've got to make sure it's all right. And when you tattoo it, you're not tattooing it as spelling. You're tattooing it as shapes. And you don't start here, go along that line and come down like, you don't do that. You might start in that bottom corner and work your way up diagonally. Yeah. So all you're doing is letters, and then
a lot of room for error.
Hang on a minute. Yeah, there is a lot of room for error.
So talk to us about that. When's the project live then? Like when's the big launch, and how can people find it?
Hopefully the books will be launched within the next couple of weeks. I've just signed off on the final proofs today with the printers. So they will hopefully start printing tomorrow. I should get all the books back in with a week. Once the website is live, then I can go live with the whole thing. We've got a few things lined up. I'm hoping to be able to tap into a few of my celebrity clients who will hopefully help me with this. I want to try and get to see somebody like Andy Burnham.
Yeah,
because I know he would like this.
Yeah.
Because it is a sort of promotion.
It's got that. Well, it's got the human nature to it as well, hasn't it?
It has. And I want every city that I do, I'm going to get in touch with the local councils. To sort of, it's not some sort of business plug or anything like that. It's something that I see as genuine. Another one that I'm going to do, and this is in the very early stages at the moment, but I've been speaking to the people from Manchester Airport about potentially doing a book showing the history of the airport and how the airport works. Yeah. And it is interesting because there's a lot of stuff that goes on there that people are not aware of. So it's something that I can do where potentially family going away with the kids, they're on a flight. It's like, God, there you go, sunshine.
Yeah.
And they can look through it, and it'll be things like, the Concorde, how it all first started, Jodrell Bank, because that's the famous landmark that you see, the fire service that worked there. There's all kinds of stuff going on in that airport. Yeah, you just haven't got a bloody clue. Yeah. So hopefully we can produce a book that will illustrate that. So, and it's something that, it might be a book that's a throwaway item, but if a kid can pick that book up and learn something from it, it's a win.
Yeah. Mate, I absolutely love the passion that you bring, not just to the new project, but to everything. And this conversation's been amazing, mate. And I think you've lived life at so many different ends of the spectrum, from the, I guess, the rebellious side of stuff, the underground stuff of tattooing, the mainstream, the celebrity culture. It all kind of plays in. It all plays in, doesn't it?
It makes for a good story.
It does. And I think, this next venture, Lou, however it ends up, you're still at the ripe age of 60? Leaning into the unknown and leaning into the fear, which I absolutely love.
Well, the long-term goal with it is I want to try and set up a publishing company to help other artists. Not just tattoo artists. Making a living from doing artwork is really bloody hard. Because it is a selective audience, and a lot of the time you can do work that might require hours and hours and hours of work, and you get peanuts for it, absolute peanuts. So it's a way how I can help other artists, help them get their name out there, and hopefully make a decent amount of money for them. Because I'm not, I think the standard royalties in publishing is between 10 and 15%. Which is, I guess it is what it is, but it's the same in the music industry and a lot of the other creative industries. But what I want to try and do is I've analysed the numbers, and realistically, I could potentially give somebody 25%. I mean, you work on a rule of thirds. So, thirds produce, third in taxes, expenses, and a third profit. But I could squeeze that a bit more to get a bit more profit in. And what I'll try and do is work it so it's a 50-50 split. They'll do the work for the book. I'll do the work to promote it and sell it, which is a win-win for everybody. And hopefully get up, to a massive repertoire of books that people can go through that will cover all kinds of subjects of all different kinds of things. And, it's just endless. I mean, going back to Psychedelic Sharks, volume 2 of Psychedelics will be Psychedelic Butterflies. And I will arrange them all in like kaleidoscope images. Now, it's nothing new. That it's been done a million times before. Probably Damien Hirst made it a bit popular with the series of butterfly stuff that he did, but it's been around way before him. So, but it's an interesting way how to do it. And to be fair, I got more inspiration with that from an American artist called Christopher Marley, who's his work is worth looking up, because he's a taxidermist, but he's what I call a modern contemporary taxidermist, and he does stuff that just blows you away. You're just like, how the fuck did you do that? And it's incredible to see it. And he uses butterflies, beetles, birds, shells, snakes, all kinds of stuff. And it's like, how the hell did you do that? And I'd love to go along and watch him work, because I know I could gain something from it. I'll be doing a book on stained glass, because that's something I'm really passionate about. And I will do all kinds of stuff. And just recently, and I know we're a bit pushed for time here, there was a glass artist whose work I've loved for years and years and years, Brian Clark, he was called. And he was originally from Oldham. And he's done all these works all over the world. And his work is very, very modern contemporary. And the two places in the north where you can see his work every day, there's one in Oldham and one in Leeds. And the one in Oldham, I have to do my banking in Oldham, and I have to go through this shopping centre called the Spindles. And God, it's depressing. I hate going in there. You're just like, fucking hell. But if you look up, Clark has done all the glass ceiling, and it is fucking stunning. It's absolutely stunning. And in Leeds, in the Victoria Quarter, you've got two arcades that run parallel. Look up. It'll absolutely blow you away. And he died a couple of months ago. And it's really sad. I think he was 73, so he wasn't really that old, but absolute creative genius. And he was one of those guys I would have loved to have gone and sat in his studio all day and just sit in the corner, don't say a word, just to watch him work. And I just get such a buzz out of stuff like that. But any kind of craftsman, it doesn't matter what they do. I could watch a joiner, a welder, an artisan, printmaker, anything. If it's creative, I'm interested, because I can pick something out of it.
Yeah.
I think I can use that.
Exactly, mate. Listen, this project is going to be amazing to watch it unfold. It really is.
hope so.
And
Well, maybe we can meet up again in 12 months and do
Yeah.
Flopsy.
absolutely, mate. And I think when it comes to the creative spirit that you've got and the hunger and the desire and the hard work, you've got all the ingredients there to make it work, Lou. And I think the experience that I've had in your company and just the grit and the determination that you've got in terms of your character. And on top of that, the thirst for knowledge, you will make this a success. So
I do hope so. I mean,
wait to
I
see it.
never take anything for granted, Dave, but I will never lose that hunger.
Yeah.
Not ever. And I hope in some way that I can inspire other people to be like that, because I know it's difficult. And I mean, kids in this day and age, God, the world they're growing up in is an absolute fucking nightmare. And there's so little opportunity for kids because it's a tough world out there. But if I could just inspire one to do something creative, and I try to be helpful with people, but it's one of those quid quo pro things.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody messaged the other day, I'd like to be an apprentice, and you get a 2-line half-arsed email. And a lot of the time I can't even be bothered responding because I'm thinking, well, clearly you didn't look on the FQA section on the website because there is something about that. And I'm thinking, well, if you can't be bothered to read it and you send me a half-assed email, it's not happening.
Yeah.
However, if they rang me up and said, I've got a portfolio, I'd really like to come and show you my work, I'd say, come on down.
That's a great message for young people, mate.
Yeah.
It really is.
And it's like, if you put the effort in, you will get a reward. It might not be what you want to hear. I might not tell you. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I will not pull any punches. And if they come in, but if they put the effort into doing that, I will always praise it. It might be, this is good, but nobody's going to get that as a tattoo. You need to do this. You need to do X, Y, Z, or whatever. I will try and give them something positive out of it. I'm not just going to just piss all over the parade and say, fuck off. I'm not, that's not me.
Yeah.
But I will try and inspire, but it's never going to be sugar-coated because nothing is sugar-coated in life. It's freaking hard work.
True, mate.
But I thrive on it.
Awesome, mate. Well, listen, I think the next time I'm going to see you is probably next week in the Pain Cave. I think I've got a session with you.
Yeah, it is.
So until then, mate, it's been an amazing conversation. Appreciate you, man. Thank you, Lou.
It's a joy.